What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The More Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.
The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online, you're now watching the UK's most alternative late night talk show, and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Michael Reccia. Now, Michael has worked as a spirit medium for over 30 years, originally taking regular services for spiritualist churches throughout the UK, lecturing and holding workshops at a variety of venues, and conducting private reading sessions for individuals at his home. Now, almost 10 years ago, his mediumship began to evolve from clairvoyance to trance. He made a link with Joseph and began to bring through the Joseph communications. Now, initially that link between him and Joseph was a clairvoyant one, but during Joseph's transmissions for the second book, Illuminating, it developed into a deeper trance connection, with Michael vacating his physical mind and body during each communication session so that Joseph could use Michael's facilities to deliver and address the world directly. Michael regards the delivery and promotion of the Joseph communications as his life's mission and his most important contributions to the evolution of spiritual consciousness during his time spent working as a medium. He hopes to see the Joseph communications recognized and read increasingly across the world. Now, Michael joins us today to discuss his latest book, From Here to Infinity. Michael Reccia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin. Great to be with you again.
It's great to have you back on. Well, Michael, lots has happened since we last spoke, obviously, as things do in life. And We last had you on, I believe it was 8 to 9 months ago. It was definitely last year when you last came on. Now we've got your final book that we're going to discuss today as well. Well, I say final. There will be others, I would have thought.
Well, it's never say never again, and Joseph is pushing me with other ideas, but for the moment we need to concentrate on getting the message out that's in the 6 books that we have out thus far, and that's quite a full-time occupation, as you can imagine.
Yes, I can imagine. I can, and this is obviously your full-time job right now, is working on the material. Getting the book as you have published and promoted out there as well. But obviously, this book, this final book, in a sense, has the work taken a bit of a toll on you as well?
Yes, I found that with the last 2 books that Joseph wanted them out as quickly as possible, and we were therefore sitting once a month. That doesn't sound much, but the toll it takes on me as a trance medium is quite great, and so the recovery time was not what it should have been, and we found at the end of the book that I was quite seriously depleted. And it's made me a little the worse for wear for a few months. But through self-healing and through God's goodness, we're coming up again in energies and should be fine soon.
Absolutely, and that's the important thing, that you're looking after yourself, because as much as this material is very precious in a sense, it's no good without yourself as being part of the process right now, because it's very important what I think you're doing as well. And I think the information that comes through, speaks for itself, really, with just the quality and the love that comes with it. Obviously, there's when you look at other trance mediums, for example, Edgar Cayce, when he used to go under, he was warned at one point that if he kept doing what he was doing and not taking a rest, that it would have a detrimental effect. And of course, he passed from not listening to the channel as well. Have you spoken to your channel in the sense of your health and everything?
Yes, I've spoken to Joseph about it, but Joseph's primary mission is to get this information across so that the people that help me from that side to recover from my physical situation are the guides that are with me all the time. And so it's a different channel. Joseph came in with some light at one stage, but also came in with the idea that there were more books in the future. And I'm sure there are. But I think there will be a bit of a gap now so that we can get out. I think everything that needs to be said to the human race is said in the 6 books that we have thus far. And I know some of the themes of Joseph's future books, theoretical future books. But I think that we need to get the books across the world. And that involves a lot of time and a lot of effort. We're also looking at putting out the books as audiobooks. So that if you're in the car or in an aeroplane, and you don't have the time to read a hard copy of the books, that you can just plug into your particular device of choice and get the message that way. So that's going to take us a couple of years.
That's a clever idea. Yeah, that's a clever idea to put it into audiobooks, I think. I think that's become a lot more popular now than it ever was.
Yes, and life's so fast at the moment that many people don't have the opportunity to sit down and read a book for 2 or 3 weeks or however long it's going to take them. And also we want to reach young people as well, because this applies to the young people who have got the time and the energy to put light into the world and to change things. They're the ones that are going to change things. So we've got to appeal to them in a format that they will respond to.
That is so true. The young people. That is so true, because it's the next generations as well coming in that are going to make a difference. But I think as well that your material will always come to the right people that need it, as any channel material would do.
Yes, that's what we find. And we always ask people how they've first heard about the books, and there's a wide variety of circumstances. They were rifling through a magazine and suddenly found it, and it spoke to them, or they've seen it online and something about it captured their attention. And you're absolutely right. There is a spiritual directive going on as well that directs the people who are ready for the information and who need that information to that information.
Absolutely. I mean, I've had a lot of people on recently from the Seth organization for the Seth
yes.
material for Jane Roberts, and there's another great amount of information coming from what's called the group. As a lot of these channelers have this word, the group, that come through, and whether they all seem to be from the same source in a sense.
Yes, indeed.
Having a different, saying it in a different way. Now, obviously, with Jane as well, she never listened with regards to what Seth had to say about health. And, of course, in '84, she passed away from, putting everything she had into it and not looking after herself.
Yes. I try my best to recover after each session, but there was an urgency to the book, so we've had to get them out within a certain time frame. And from the fall onwards, from the third book onwards, Joseph said, look, things are quite negative on Earth at the moment, so we need to speed things up, folks. Which is fine from a point of view of being in a spiritual sphere and not having a physical body and being healthy because of that, but not fine when you're trying to achieve something and pushing against the field of human consciousness and pushing against your own limitations physically. So yes, there has to be a recovery period, which I think will be quite a long one. But I haven't pushed myself to the point where I'm about to fall off the twig and only talk to people through a medium myself.
Yeah. Well, as long as you're looking after yourself, that's the thing.
Thank you.
And also, with some channelers as well, it seems to be the energies sense people like Casey and Jane Roberts, in the sense that the energies are there where trance mediums don't need to. Some of them don't seem to be going as deep as you do sometimes. They seem to be on a bit of a lighter level in a sense. When you look at, for example, Esther and Jerry Hicks, and their eyes are open. They seem to be. It's not so demanding on their bodies. I mean, do you know what I mean?
Yes. I think with me it was always a matter of getting me out of the way, and that was a wish on my part as well, to be as pure a channel and as deep a channel as I possibly could be. And therefore it was necessary to take me over to that extent. And also, there's only a certain amount of time with each session during which Joseph can deliver his chapters. It seemed to be around 40 minutes before the power fails and he's got to move away from me. And so it makes sense for him to come in through me, get me out of the way, and deliver that as each chapter very much as whole cloth within the time frame, so that he's accomplished what he wants to accomplish. If I was doing that clairvoyantly, as I did with the earlier books until the middle of the second book, there's always me in the way, because I'm passing on a message. So there is margin for error in that.
Yes.
Whereas I'm not there, and Joseph is in effect speaking directly to his audience, then that margin for error is lessened or negated completely.
No, that makes complete sense. I mean, yes, I sort of resonate with what you're saying there. You just want to be as out of the way as possible as you can be. Yeah,
yes.
And you feel that. I suppose any channel that has, when someone like Joseph comes through yourself, it's still your flavor that's attached to that in a sense. Like as in any channel, it's still coming through them as a filter. But I suppose what you're saying is, the deeper you go, the more clear that filter is.
Yes, for example, as a medium, if somebody from the spirit side of life, whom I'm giving a clairvoyant message, thinks an image of a pencil to me, then I will pick up that image of a pencil, but might think, well, I have a red pencil at home, so it's a red pencil. So I'm giving somebody a pencil, but I might influence that message by saying it's a red one. Whereas if I'm not there, then Joseph can say exactly what he wants using my faculties, and I haven't coloured that message. So it's a purer message. So that's why the trance is necessary in getting the messages across, the Joseph messages.
Right. And just out of curiosity, how long does it normally take you to go under nowadays?
It's from one heartbeat to the next. We sit around, the four of us, the band of light, as Joseph calls us, and we prepare. But it's simply a matter of looking at the clock and saying, it's 10 o'clock, and I look at the clock, I close my eyes, and then I'm out, I'm gone. And the next thing that I know consciously is that I'm trying my best to make my physical body move and to open my eyes again. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what have I done again? I'm in that depleted state, almost a deleted state, and it's going to take me a week to recover from this.
Right. Okay. Absolutely. So then, and that's why, yeah, you're being a bit more gentle on yourself. 'Cause now that would make sense for me in the audience. I think just how deep you're having to go for your own personal channel, to get this through for the way you're doing it. That makes complete sense. And there's not that many channels in the UK, and I would say you're one of the ones that have come through in the past 10 years or more, and has actually produced some great material as well. That's when I mention your name to other people do know who you are. So people are reading your books, which is fantastic.
There must be these points of light. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way, but there must be these points of communication around the world. But we're fortunate in that we have a background that enables us, once we've got the information, to then get it out. My background's in public relations, in copywriting. David's background's in design. Jane has done management of companies. And so between us, we have the faculty, the facility to then take the information, transcribe it, design the books, print the books, and get them out there. And it's also important that we do this ourselves, because were we to give the books to any other publishing house, they would want, for example, a retread of the book every year. Or they would want to edit the book in a certain way. And it's important that those words are sent out exactly as we receive them. So the whole thing has been put together as an exercise, as a project, as a mission spiritually, and has taken many years to get to this point.
Okay, well, we've got the book to go over as well, and I just wanted to ask you those few questions, just for anyone who might be wondering some of those questions as well. And I've been pondering some of those questions, and it's great to get your opinion on them as well. So thank you.
I think if I might also pop in one further question.
Sure.
One further response is that people often don't know that we don't do this for profit. We put all the proceeds from the Joseph books back into producing more Joseph books and getting them out into the world. So it's not as though we're holding the information to ourselves. Obviously, it costs money to print these books, and it costs money to get them out there and to advertise them. And that's what we do with every penny that comes in. It goes out again. So it's not as though we're sitting there and thinking we're going to get rich from Joseph. That's not the intention. The intention is to get the message out.
It's a funny thing, that, isn't it? That when you do this spiritual work, it almost like it provides for you. It will, pay for the roof over your head and everything else. But to become mega rich of it, for example, or to experience major abundance like that, if those are the materialistic things that you might want, you can get abundance in other ways. It doesn't seem to do that, does it?
It doesn't. And I think there's a false impression often with mediums who are working on a global stage. And it's not about the money. The money is just, it's trash, really. It is about being able to get the message out. And we've got to work within the world. We can't go to a printer and say, we're mediums, we're a group, we're trying to get a spiritual message out, and they will then say, well, that's fine. We're not going to charge you. Obviously, these books cost money to print.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's just cover that just as soon as you brought it up. I mean, there is nothing to say that doing for this work that you shouldn't charge for it. That is a load of rubbish.
Yes.
You came here to have an experience where you don't, that it doesn't need to be a struggle. You came here to have an experience where it's full of abundance for the things that you want. And maybe you're attracting in your life right now just the things that you want. Maybe with the work that you're doing, you're more than happy not to have other things because maybe you don't want them. It's not to say you can't attract them from this work that you do. And I think it's your right to make money from this work because it's an exchange of energy.
Oh yes, that's all money is. As you say, an exchange of energy. When I work full-time as a medium giving clairvoyant messages, you would occasionally get somebody and say, well, you shouldn't be charging for those messages. And you'd have to say, well, look, if I go to the mortgage people and say, I'm a medium, they're not going to say, well, that's fine. We will just get rid of your mortgage and you can live for free. If I go to the gas man or the electricity board and say, I'm a medium, I'm not paying for these services, they're not going to say, oh, that's wonderful. We still have to live in the world. And if you look at conventional religions and you look at the leaders of conventional religions, they are very often given a house to live in and they are given a car to drive, because without those things, they couldn't get out to their flock. But in the case of mediumship, it's often thought of that you shouldn't charge for this, as you quite rightly say. And that's not the case.
But is your work now, would you saying, or has it before? I think this book covers it a bit. This latest book, which we're about to get into, does your work now cover, would you say, law of attraction a bit more, in the sense of you can attract it into your life those things that you want? And one thing that came to me recently through other channels is that we create our reality. You create your reality. So if you want to create a reality where you have things that you might desire to experience, you can do that. Is your work going more into that direction, would you say?
Yes, with a view to Joseph informing people that they do indeed create their own reality, and that they can, by choice, create a different reality. And that's the core of the message across the books, that we look at this world and see it lacking. And we see a violent place, we see a place with poverty, we see a place with illness, where people's lives are not happy lives, they're not fulfilled lives. And Joseph is saying we have to change the program. And it's down to each of us individually to do that. And we are capable of doing that. And we should build into our structure of each day a time when we connect to the divine within and create the world that we want to see. But not only for ourselves, but for the rest of the world too. To say, enough of the violence. Enough of the disharmony between us. Let's concentrate on the unification, concentrate on the oneness that we have at core. And let's bring that out and see that harmony and visualize the world that we want on a daily basis. And then we bring it towards ourselves. And we begin, finally, to change this world into what it once was and became lost, and what became lost millennia ago.
Yes, absolutely. And we can create that reality that we so desire, if it's true and resonates for us, that's what we want.
Yes.
Sometimes we don't know what we want, so life can't, give us back. It just seems to be that life knows the word yes, but sometimes it's saying yes to, well, I don't think I'm worthy. Well, yes, you're not.
Yes, because you're creating that perfectly. You're creating that sense of not being worthy. You are bringing to yourself, through the law of attraction, I am not worthy. And you create it perfectly. So we create either perfect health or perfect illness. We create perfect supply or perfect lack of supply. We are capable of creating perfectly in everything that we visualize. But we tend to visualize, because of the general consensus around the world, the way that society is structured, we visualize the negative rather than the positive.
Yes.
And Joseph is saying it's time for us, before it's too late, to concentrate on the positive, to realize, as you said, people don't know where they're going and what they are, to realize that we're spiritual beings, to realize the potential that we have, to realize how we operate as spiritual beings, and to put that potential into operation, to change things, to finally let go of the violence, to finally see a world where people aren't starving, where people aren't at loggerheads with other people, where people aren't controlling other people, to bring to ourselves and to send out that harmony and love in the form of light energy, which is at the core of what we do.
Yes, and that's right, the core of what you do, and that's what makes your work so special in a sense, and different and new as well, which is always great to have new material coming through. So coming on to the book then, From Here to Infinity, fantastic book, by the way. Just sum up the book initially for the audience.
Yes, well, it's a book that is the sixth in a series of books, the Joseph Communications. And I really didn't think that Joseph would have anything more to talk about. And at the beginning, it looked as though he was giving a series of chapters on different spiritual themes that didn't link together. But by the time I get through half of the book, he then starts to major on accelerated ways to change the world. And the book is addressing the light workers that are already out there and saying to them, here's how projection of light works within yourself and connecting to others. And here are advanced methods for projecting that light out into the world, to change the world, to change people's perceptions of the world before it's too late. So it is an advanced light giver's book. I think that's how I can condense it into a couple of sentences.
Right. Okay. Yep. And there are a lot of light workers out there right now, even in the most mundane jobs.
Yes.
Without no judgment, they are here for evolution of themselves and for the humble work of others. Well, let's go to the one of the chapters in the book, and it starts off really to begin with the nature of God.
Yes.
Now you've covered this in other books. Why was this covered again, do you think?
Well, he's talking about a way by which we can connect into the divine and use that connection to influence ourselves in very, very positive and very dynamic ways. So he talks about the God is and the principle of God is, of injecting into every situation in our lives, God is. And in bringing that in as the most positive thing that we can do in the face of adversity, in the face of negativity, to actually affirm and believe and bring out of ourselves simply the God is. And saying that by doing that, you superimpose over the situations in your life this dynamic perfection of the divine that changes things, that reestablishes a state of equilibrium and harmony with you, and that transforms the most dire of situations. So, for example, in a dire, terrible illness, God is. I'm not concentrating on the illness, I'm concentrating on the divine within the illness, and at that divine level, there is no illness. God knows nothing about the illness. And so in areas of lack, in areas of violence, you don't see the area of lack, you don't see the area of violence, you see that God is in that situation. You establish the divine within that situation, and you therefore help to bring out of the people that are involved in those situations of violence, in situations of lack, in situations of illness, you bring out of them the divine that they really are at core. And you help them to overcome the negativity of those situations and to establish harmony once again.
Do you think sometimes with our health conditions that it's something that we've attracted to ourselves, that we've created in a sense, isn't it?
Absolutely, and it's difficult for us to realize that, isn't it? And to accept that, because we always look to someone else to blame in an illness situation. For example, I've been depleted for a few months. That depletion is an effect because of the cause of going into trance. No one else has imposed that depletion on me. I've put it onto myself through choice, through taking up the trance. But in establishing that illness is very often an effect, because we put certain situations into being in our lives, it gives us great power, because we're looking at illness and saying, right, okay, I've made this situation, but I can unmake this situation. I don't have to look to a doctor to unmake it. I don't have to look to a psychiatrist to unmake it. I created this situation. I can uncreate it if I've got the tools. And Joseph is saying, you've got the tools. You can use light. You can use visualization. You can reestablish your harmony. The greatest gift that you've got is the ability to choose. So you find yourself in a very negative situation, you can say, yeah, I'm in it, but I can influence it. I personally can influence it. And there's great power in that, and great satisfaction in being able to do that.
And he talks about as well in one of the chapters, it's just a matter of time as well. The chapter's called A Matter of Time, in a sense.
Yes.
Just go over that chapter just briefly for us.
Yes, that's a mind-blowing chapter, because Joseph is talking about time and saying that we accept that our lives unfold in a linear fashion on Earth, because that's how we perceive things. There's a now, there's going to be a tomorrow, there's been a yesterday. What Joseph says is, no, all you are perceiving when you perceive time is a choice of experience. So you are looking at the now as you perceive it, and that becomes paramount in your mind. But when you revisit the past, for example, what you perceive of as being the past, it still has the same power in your life as it did when those points from the past first occurred. They are still alive. And the future is another choice from a tableau of now that is passing across you. I was liken it, and I think we've mentioned this before, to a program that used to be on in the 70s called The Generation Game on British TV, where at the end of the show, a person was sat in front of double doors. They would go back, and there was a conveyor belt. And along that conveyor belt would come certain objects that the person had to remember in order to win them as prizes at the end of the event, at the end of the show. That's what Joseph says time is like. You decide to concentrate on one of those objects. And if you're looking at one of the objects, you can't see the other objects. But in the eternal now, they still exist. And they still have the power over you and with you that they did at the time that they existed. So he's suggesting that time is malleable, that time really doesn't exist, and that you can visit events from, as you see it, the past, and take the sting out of them. Realize that you are still, when you visit them, revisiting the pain that they had, that they caused you when you first experienced them. And you can take that pain out of those situations by putting light into situations that are still very much alive with you. And you can defuse them, you can change them, you can harmonize them, you can set yourself free from them, which slows down your aging process, which makes you more resistant to illness, and makes you able to go forward into your life, although forward is only a relative term, with new energy and with new harmony.
Well, that's incredible. That's almost like, when you revisit the old wounds, for example.
Yes.
You're entering them, once you've healed them, into another parallel universe, in a sense, that wasn't there before. That's almost, there now, because you've healed the past and you've created something new in the present.
Yes, we have programs, don't we? We have science fiction programs that concentrate on time travelers. We're all time travelers because we live now, but we're also looking to the future. We revisit in our minds and in our hearts situations from the past, and they are still alive with us. So we travel in time all the time, not in a time machine, but we are a time machine. But we can move into experiences that we've had and discover through contemplation and through meditation that those things are still upsetting us as much as they did when they first happened. And therefore we can move back along that passage of our lives, infuse them with light, let them go, and so they become part of our history, as it were, but without the sting, without the negative effect, without the baggage that they represent in our now.
Well, that's almost, again, like time is not, well, it's not as we understand it. It's almost as though the way you're explaining that, and the way that Joseph explained that, is that it's almost like time, everything is happening now. The past is happening now. The future potentially could be happening now. It's so changing. Applying these things, it's changing everything, isn't it? In a sense, if time is not as we understand it.
Yes, you're selecting from your now those aspects that you wish to change and that you wish not to harm you anymore. So, something happens to you when you're 5, you fall over and you're resentful of that and you are in pain. That may still be happening in your mind now, in your psyche now. What Joseph is saying is, because time is really a desire to select from a total perception of your life, that you can go back to that point because it still exists, because that pain still exists, and wipe out that pain. Accept that thing happened to you, but infuse it with light to free you in your current perception of time, your current perception of the now, to go forwards and to have an enhanced life, a better life, a less restrictive life because of what's happened to you in the past.
That's absolutely incredible. That really is said in a way that I've not heard before. Very powerful.
Extremely powerful to understand that we're not at the mercy of time, and that time really doesn't exist. We select certain experiences. We're selecting now to talk to each other. That's our point of focus. But in our quiet times, we have other points of focus that are still as alive from our vast experience as when we first perceived them. So we can go ahead and we can change those. But by the same token, we can then create an atmosphere for the next stage in our existence, the next stage in our perception, or the future as we see it, that is far more harmonious than it would have been had we not put light into it, had we not viewed our past experiences and infused them with light and let them go, let the negative effects of them go.
Okay, well, that's a very, very powerful tool, and there's more powerful tools in this book as well. I mean, and that's only just sort of skimming the subject. It's a lot more detailed in the chapter, obviously, but we don't have the time for that. But thank you so much for sharing that. That's absolutely incredible. I obviously, we're not going to, touch on every chapter because there's not the time to do it. But I love the space, and there's one of the chapters obviously called "The Illusion of Space and Distance" as well. And just very briefly, just go over that chapter.
Distance doesn't exist. Space doesn't exist, because everything that happens to us is an externalization of what's happening in here. Everything, in effect, happens in here. Our connection to God is not outside of ourselves, it's in here. The way that we perceive other people is not outside of ourselves, it's in here. We put up this illusion of space and of distance so that we can react with others. But actually, the journey is always here. The journey is always at the core of ourselves. And we can access that journey, change that journey, enhance that journey, connect to God during that journey, not by looking for the divine outside of ourselves, in somewhere nebulous that doesn't really exist, but here inside ourselves. We create vistas, we as the angelic beings that we really are, create vistas that we move through in order to experience. But that experience is in here, not outside. It's only so that we can react with others on this level of consciousness that we create the illusion of space and of distance between ourselves. There is no distance between ourselves. There is no disconnection between you and I as we speak this morning. At core, we're the same thing. We are all connected. But because we've had millennia of negativity, of violence, of seeing ourselves as individuals, totally as individuals, we put up these barriers and we perceive a distance that really isn't there. This is why, as light givers and as light workers, and another point of the book, is that you can influence something seemingly on the other side of the world by putting light into it, sitting in your own living room, because there is no distance. And when you connect consciously through volition to a certain aspect of the world, say you want to put light into a violent situation half a world away, you automatically connect to it. You put your thoughts into it, and you are one with it. You're always one with it. And by volition, you can therefore send light into it. Because we get emails from people saying, am I being effective as a light worker? Well, yes, you are, and here's why. Once you concentrate on the light within and send it out into a specific area, it's there. Instantly, it's there. You are putting those people in those situations into a condition of light within which they can perhaps change their minds, put down their weapons, change the world, change their attitude to each other. We're not distant beings. We are all one being.
Again, that's so very, very powerful. When you really think about that and to add a deeper meaning as well, and in the sense that we are all family, we all come from the same source.
Absolutely.
We are all connected, we are all one. And again, it's difficult to see that sometimes when others are doing such terrible acts to each other. Yet, I suppose we have to remind ourselves that that potentially souls come down here to have different experiences. So it's so easy to judge sometimes, isn't it? But that doesn't stop us, as you say, from sending out that light and the love that's contained within that light to just help heal. So, yeah.
Because we care about our brothers and sisters, and we care that they will be cared for. Someone has to care for them. Someone has to lift them above their violent tendencies, and we do that because they are family, because we're all one. And in a sense, we are connected to that violent act, those violent areas, to a small degree, because of that oneness. Therefore, we've got to create conditions within which our brothers and sisters can grow and become more than they are at this time.
You talk about in the book as well about Joseph comes through to do the chapter, but the your life is a projection as well, in a sense.
Yes, that we are the projectionist and we are the director of our lives. So we project outwards from the core that which we need in order to experience and to grow. And so we are the directors of our lives, but we don't realize that. We feel that we are at the mercy of the play that we've created the scenarios, the script that we've created, and we have got lost within the play. What Joseph is saying is that it's time to realize that you can go within and you can influence that play. It is flexible. It doesn't really exist. It's malleable. You can imprint on it exactly what you want to imprint on it. You are not the victim. You are the scriptwriter. You're the director, you're the projectionist, and therefore you can alter that play. If you don't like the play that you're in, then see the play that you want to be around you in your daily meditations. If you don't like the film of the world as it is, project a different film. Go within, visualize that film, accept it to be true in the name of the divine, and you begin to imprint a different world onto the world that you see at the moment. And if enough of us realize that we're in the director's seat, then we will begin to change this world for the better, finally. It is time to get rid of the violence. It is time to get rid of the power seeking. It is time to get rid of these monstrous egos and power plays that exist around the globe. And we're never going to do it from within the play as it exists at this time. We have to change the play. And we change the play by going within, by realizing that we are part of the divine, by realizing what the divine plan is for us, and the divine plan is for us to enjoy ourselves as the angelic beings that we really are, and to realize that we therefore have to change things, and we can't wait for another director to change things, or somebody in the editing suite to change things. It's down to us, the director. We've written the script, we're directing the film, we're projecting the film. If we don't like it, we have to change it. And that gives us great power. Many people say, again, what can I do, little me? There's no little you. You are part of the divine. You are part of the whole. You are equally as powerful as anyone else. Don't think that power lies in politics, or power lies in terrorism, or power lies in violence, or power lies in the acquisition of wealth. Those things are ephemeral. Those things change. Those things fall like autumn leaves and become dust. You are powerful as anyone else around this world. In fact, you're more powerful because you've got the key, because you know that you're part of the divine, and you know that divine power can change things, and therefore you can change things for the better.
Yeah, and was our conversation just a bit earlier when I was using the words to you as well? When you create your reality.
Yes.
This is law of attraction material that you've got here.
Yes.
It really is. You can have the life that you want. You can manifest those things in your life that you wish to experience.
Yes.
Sometimes it may not be what you thought it was because it's not for your highest best. Yeah, there's something better, but you are in charge. So if the movie isn't going the way that you want right now, only you can change it. But you've got to have the belief in yourself that you're worthy of it.
Yes, and you've got to put the time in. It's no use saying, well, I want to change the film, but I'm going out now because I want to go to a nightclub, or I want to go to the pub, or I want to go shopping, or I want the new car, or I want the holiday. There has to be, because this is about you, there has to be some time during the day when you put some effort in. And that effort in begins with becoming still, with learning to meditate, and that's not the fearsome beast that it appears to be. Meditation is quite easy once you get into it. And having time to change that film, putting in the time to change that film. Nobody's going to do it for you. It's a personal responsibility thing, and we are each responsible to a degree for the world as it is at the moment. And therefore, if we don't like the world as it is at the moment, either personally or globally, we have to put something in order to get something out. And there's a great reward in that as well, because we discover how powerful we are, how wonderfully powerful we are when we're working with the light and for the light and sending the light out, how we can change our physique, how we can change our approach to illness, how we can change our global position in this world, how we can change our fortunes simply by putting that effort in. But I have to stress, and it goes through each of the Joseph communications, we have to do it. We have to do it. And there are so many distractions today. People are on their mobile phones and tablets and computers all the time. People are going at 100 miles an hour all the time and rushing to somewhere that they're not really aware of where that somewhere is. They just know that they've got to go fast. And in order to change things, and in order to get more out of life for ourselves and for everyone else, we have to stop that. There has to be a period during each day when we stop that, when we connect to the divine, when we give ourselves time to be who we really are. And that might only be 5 minutes or a quarter of an hour, but that's the most important 5 minutes or a quarter of an hour in our entire day.
Yeah, I completely agree with you that the giving back of the time to oneself is so important, and we don't do it enough, do we? We don't. Even just through meditation, like you say.
Yes, and giving time to what we really are, contemplating what we are. How many of us do that? How many people? I've lost a few friends this year. There's been seems to be quite a few people that have moved on this year, and you wonder how many people go through life and never consider what life's about. Because they're going so fast, particularly in today's society, they never consider that they might be spiritual beings. They never consider what comes next. They never consider their power as spiritual beings. Well, surely we owe that to ourselves, to ask the questions. To ask the question at some stage in our lives, what am I? Where did I come from? Before this, where did I come from? Nowhere, somewhere. Where am I going to? Nowhere, somewhere. And we owe it to ourselves to investigate the possibilities of life after death, what lies ahead for us, and what we are capable of as spiritual beings.
Well, some will deflect that and say, well, science tells me that, I am just my body, and once I've physically died, in a sense, that is it, because that's what science tells me, and I'm going to go on what science tells me.
Yes,
is that a deflection?
Certainly it is. Science works from a head-mind principle. So science is evaluating this world from the perspective of the annoying computer that we have in our heads, the physical mind. But we have another mind, as we've talked about in other discussions, Kevin. We have a heart mind. And the heart mind is the one, when accessed through meditation, that gives us not a feeling that things might be in a certain way, but a certain knowledge that things operate in a certain way. You look at science, for example, and science will say, well, all the stars are made of X, Y, and Z. How does science know? The furthest we've been is the moon. How does science know that the physics that apply here, seemingly, apply on other planets, on other worlds? It's an arrogance to say that we know. We haven't even set foot on another planet, and yet we say everything out there is as it is here. Not necessarily. No. Science is an arrogance, and science, in certain cases, can be very closed-minded. We have to have the intelligence, the logic to say, well, science doesn't know everything. I don't know everything. And so I'm going to go within myself on a journey of self-discovery and global discovery to find out what harmonizes with me. And at that point, we find that it doesn't matter what science says, doesn't matter what medicine says, doesn't matter what politics says. It's what we know from within that counts. And that's not a knowledge through the head mind that says, yes, I believe in this, because belief infers that you have to put effort into something. This is knowledge, not belief. There's a difference, if you see what I mean.
Yes.
Belief has to be shored up. I believe in this, but do I? I've got to keep putting energy into this to shore up my belief. Knowledge is, yes, I know that. I accept that. It's part of my being. I don't have to consider it. I don't have to worry about it. It's part of what I am. And that's what we discover from going within.
Absolutely. But, maybe some souls are switched off in this life from ever asking those questions for the evolution of whatever they've come down here to do, as whatever plan they've come down here for. Maybe they're supposed to be that switched off. Maybe there's options where there's always markers to say, you could, just look at things differently in this perspective at this point in your life. But if you choose not to, it's fine, because it won't affect any of the life plans for the people that surround you neither, because you're supposed to be this particular kind of person.
Yeah, well, there is a movement across the world through spirits like Joseph and other soul groups that are attempting to contact us to say, look, you many years ago, thousands of years ago, took a misstep. You cut yourself off from your divine heritage consciously. It's still there, but you masked it. And if you continue to mask it, you will affect society to the extent that society won't eventually function as it is doing today. You're running out of time, you're running out of resources, and you can't just put a band-aid over things. The only way that you can put things right is by realizing that spiritual heritage. And you don't have to suffer in this way through not connecting with your spiritual heritage. It's up to you to find it, but if you find it, it will enhance and open up your life and will give you a chance to reach other souls and make them aware of their spiritual connection to God and their divine origins. So there is a movement, quite an urgent movement, which is why we got the last two books out so very quickly, relatively speaking, to say, please, you're going wrong. You're heading down the wrong road. You've cut off yourself from your God. You've cut off yourself from each other, and you need to reconnect. You really do, before it's too late, before the world and society heads for cataclysm because of your blindness to what you are creating at the moment. That you're depleting resources to the point of no return. You're investing yourself in technology to the point that you cannot connect with the people around you because you're too busy connecting with your technology. You're too busy raising medicine and science to the point of godhood in your minds. And you really do need to get back to the question of, who am I? What am I capable of? When you've got that knowledge, fine, you can do what you want with it. But you need the knowledge first. And we are, to a great extent, ignoring that knowledge, ignoring our inheritance, ignoring our capability, which really enhances our life when we get back to it, when we can reconnect to it.
And some people will say, unless it's fact, unless it's the facts are there and I can see it, I'm not going to go with it because, it's just, it's not fact. But that's a way of disconnecting yourself as well, straight away.
It is, but then you've got to remember that from our point of view and from Joseph's point of view, the facts that we see around us we are creating by perpetuating the world as it is through our subconscious ability to create and to contribute to the whole as spiritual beings. So a fact today may not be a fact tomorrow. And then again, how do you define a fact? In order to define the facts of this world, you would have to experiment with every single aspect of this world and prove it to yourself. But we don't do that. We rely on somebody else to say, well, they've discovered it, therefore it's true. What we're saying is investigate that and you'll find it lacking. And also, when you go within, you get the fact of spiritual connection. And it's not a fact that you feel through your mind, it's a fact that you feel and know through your heart that is far stronger and far more solid and far more gratifying and far more dynamic than any fact that you think you have connected to via your head mind. The heart mind brings you to spiritual reality. And I think we've got to say to people watching this, give it a try. You will find other facts, you will find spiritual facts. But again, it's back to the argument that we had earlier about people actually having to put in some time. You can discover these spiritual facts, you can discover your spiritual heritage and connect to it, but you've got to do it. No one else will do it for you. No one's going to say, that's your spiritual heritage, follow this set of beliefs. You have to do it for yourself. But once you've done it, the rewards are wonderful. And it gives you a steer in life that you won't have had until this point. And it expands your knowledge of existence so that you're not frightened of death, so that you're not frightened of illness, so that you're not frightened of the challenges of life, because you know how to tackle them.
And you know that you're the creator of this experience, so you can then drive the movie to the way that you wanted it as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've bumped into some people before who say, I live a very happy life. I don't need to look at anything alternative. I'm very content. And actually, probably what they're doing is they're empowering everything that we're talking about right now. They just don't know they're doing it.
Yes. And I think to those people, we've got to say, it's wonderful. Really happy that you've got a happy life. That's wonderful. But then, how is about extending that happiness out to everyone else around the world? You know, I mean, we have campaigns, don't we, on the TV about people starving in this area and wildlife going extinct in that area, and we donate through our solidified spiritual power as pounds, shillings, and pence. But we can be far more effective if we donate of our time spiritually through light to change things on behalf of everyone else. So it is great for those people that are having a happy life. Great, but please, if you would, take time to consider everyone else around the world who ultimately is a part of you. They are a part of you. And so they're part of your family. And just as you would care for family, and you do care for your immediate family, take a while to care for your greater, your extended, your angelic family, your spiritual family. And if you don't like what you see, then extend that happy life in visualization to them and begin to change things for them and lift them out of the doldrums and lift them out of the negative aspects of life that they find themselves in.
Yes, absolutely agreed. Absolutely. And you know, it is kind of like living in the Matrix here sometimes, you know, in some respects where, you know, with the work that you do, I mean, you know, as much as you'd like to reach a huge audience, I suppose you have to say to yourself, you're reaching the people that you need to reach right now. You know, you're not here to reach, you know, as some YouTubers reach, you know, 1 million subscribers. It's not about that right now. You reach the people when they need reaching, because otherwise they're having their life experience as they should do in the moment now, maybe switched off. But would you disagree that maybe they could be doing it, well, you would disagree that they could be doing it differently, but would you also agree that that's where they need to be if they're not coming across material like this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as we talked about, I think, before the program, people we asked people where they discovered the books, and they'll say, "Well, I was looking through a magazine and I saw this ad, and for some reason it jumped out and talked to me." Or we saw a reference on the net, and there was something about it, sight unseen, that we felt was right for us, and so we sent for the books. And that's how it works. Yes, there are certain people that the message will not be for, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But there are those people who are concerned at a certain level in their existence for the world, for themselves and their families and where they're going spiritually, and need and want this information. And of course, the ultimate message with Joseph, which we've spoken about in the past, is not to come back. Not to come back to this world and to be drawn into pain and suffering, but to move on into the spiritual spheres at the end of your life, and to move on into exciting and wonderful new landscapes and adventures and proximity to God in feeling and in operation, rather than coming back here to repeat the process and perhaps put yourself through another unhappy life.
Well, we will just get back into that in just a second, because that leads on to a very important part right now, that does. But just the reason I bring this question up as well is yes, we spoke about it before, but it just keeps popping into my mind sometimes. You know, you talk about, you know, then we wouldn't be coming back. But then look at the amount of people who are into the different religions that are out there. They would say that that's the right way for them, and this wouldn't be the right way. So I suppose, for me, my truth, without you having to say it, I suppose my truth is, in a sense, that those who are in religious doctrines are actually quite restricted in a sense. They're not as free as they think they could be in their thinking, in their manifestations, in the way that reality really could be. It's almost like those sorts of chosen restrictions in this particular life.
Yes, I think with certain religions, not with all religions, of course, but with certain religions, there has been a build-up over the years of elevating the heads of those religions to a godlike state. And it also is a great idea from the point of view of those heads of those religions to keep people coming to them, to keep themselves powerful and not the people within those religions. And yes, there are restrictive practices. And what we've found with the Joseph communications is that what we believe today is enhanced tomorrow by further information. And I think it's tremendously important that we keep our minds as open as possible in all that we do. And never to say that we know everything. I don't know everything. You don't know everything. I wouldn't purport to know everything. But I know what is right for me at this point in my existence. But because my mind is open, please God, I am open to new concepts coming in tomorrow that will enhance what I already know. If I am within the confines of a religion that says, believe between point A and point B, but believe nothing else, or you will be punished or sent into hellfire, then my mind's closed. My mind's closed from outside of myself because I'm told what to believe and what not to believe. I want to decide for myself what I can believe and what I can't believe. And I want to leave my mind open enough that tomorrow, if Joseph or another spirit comes in with another concept that enhances what I already know to be true from my core, I have got the flexibility to add that knowledge to what I already know.
But why have billions of souls come into this incarnation then to have such restrictions where they can't expand what they know because it seemed to be wrong to look at to look and expand in that sense? And one book has all the answers. Why do souls like us come in that want to expand, and others that are just the masses that are just in the matrix and contracted not to?
I think it's more a case of there are certain souls who come in with a volition to enlighten, and that sounds very arrogant, but I mean enlighten as in quite literally bring light to other souls so that they can begin their journey of expansion. So I think when we come back here, we come back for one of two reasons. Either one, we want another ride on the merry-go-round, or two, we are concerned that those who want another ride on the merry-go-round need to enlighten themselves, literally, to bring in light, to expand their view of reality and spirituality. And so the second type of soul is the soul that comes in with an earnest mission to actually try and make a difference. Now, I've seen many souls who have come in with an earnest mission to try and make a difference, and they're pulled off course by the field of human consciousness that paws at them and claws at them until they are distracted. But there are one or two points of light around the globe that do get through with that mission. And it is those people that are trying to get out messages that are similar or actually identical to the Joseph message. And we've got to go back to the book on the fall, haven't we, Kevin, here, that says that we closed ourselves off from our divinity, from our conscious knowledge of a divinity, millennia ago by speeding up matter, by taking part in an experiment for this world that we were advised wouldn't work, but we went ahead with it anyway. And at the point that we instigated that experiment, we lost our conscious connection to God. And as a result of that, we view this world pretty much as all there is. And we view this world as something that, even though it's for many of us a negative experience, is the only experience that we know. So we draw ourselves back into that experience time and again. What Joseph is saying, what group souls outside of that experience are saying, is that it's time to remember that we got things wrong. And it's time to put things right, to liberate ourselves. To liberate ourselves from the suffering, to liberate ourselves from perpetuating acts of violence on each other, and to recognize ourselves as the spiritual family that we are at core, and to move on with the original purpose for this earth and for our reason in visiting it.
Yeah, yes, absolutely agreed there, and yes, you are right as well that other channels bring out the same information as what Joseph does. Saying it in a different way, though, yes. But it's the same message in a sense. And when I've channeled as well, it's always said to me that we come through many different people, yet you still don't listen. So that's why we're coming back in different forms, because you do not listen, and you always want to do it the most painful way.
Yes, I mean, if you look at Jesus' message, just as one example. That message is identical to Joseph's message. It's love each other because you're all the same thing. Don't harm each other. Turn the other cheek and connect to the God within, and you can do wonderful things. That message was given 2,000 years ago. It's not been heeded. It amuses me at Christmas, and Joseph says it in one of the books. He says Christmas is one of the most diabolical times of the year, because you have people celebrating the fact that they haven't listened to a message and acted upon it 2,000 years ago. We're not listening to the message. Quite rightly, as you say, Kevin, we have to listen. We have a spiritual family outside of ourselves that cares for us and cares about us and doesn't want us to suffer. And he's saying, look, there's a different way. At least entertain it for a while to see if it's right for you. If it isn't, continue with the old ways. But at least view it, investigate it, see if it's powerful, see what a difference it makes to you, see what a difference it makes to others. Investigate it, take that time, and that's the message.
Well, this is where I'm getting to. The reason why I've gone backwards a little bit in all this is to get to this next part, which is really important. There's a ladder on your front page of your book, and it's going to, well, as you would say, it's endless. It could be infinitive.
Infinity, yes.
Now, we don't have to, as souls, that there are other levels to go to, not just this level. I was told by numerous people that have come on this show that how this is the nursery school. This is the lowest level to come to, in a sense. Even though it may seem terrific, there are other places to go to. Now, in my channelings as well, I've been told that the levels to go to are infinitive. So let's get into to your book as well, in the sense of the chapter Infinity, in the sense that is it true then, in your perspective, in your understanding, and what Joseph told you, that there are better levels to go to and there are infinitive levels to go to? It never stops.
Yeah, absolutely. We first of all have to look at Joseph's perspective of us moving away from the effects of that cataclysmic event that locked us into this current reality that he describes as the fall. That's the term, the fall. He therefore goes on to say that the spiritual realms beyond this one that mediums usually connect with, and that I used to connect with as a medium clairvoyantly, are not heavens as such, although they are blissful existences when compared to this one. They are a series of preparation or cleansing spheres that negate bit by bit the effects of the fall on us as we move through them, so that we can one day go through that metaphorical hatch into infinity. Once we get into a state of infinity, we are reunited with the angelic host, with our true brothers and sisters. We're all brothers and sisters here, but we are actually angelic beings. We reconnect to that level of consciousness once we go through into infinity. Now, infinity is an incredibly difficult thing to translate into the spoken word, but Joseph describes it as an area of infinite potential, where within infinity you can examine within yourself and individually or as part of a group all those areas that you wish to examine. You can create exactly what you want to create. You can move through your creations, always with the view of enhancing your experience, therefore enhancing the experience of the angelic host around you, and ultimately enhancing and evolving the experience of the divine. And Joseph also explains that in infinity, everything is done in a state of play, and I mean play as in children's play, with that level of joy at being able to create, and with a feeling of bliss. It is not the heavy negative state that we find ourselves in here. And that's one of the reasons why that ladder is there on the cover of the book, to symbolically say to people, look, it's there. Infinity is there. That's where you're heading. You can create heaven on earth, and then you can move from heaven on earth through a series of heavens, a series of cleansing spheres, and back into limitless potential. And as a being in infinity, you are limitless potential, and you examine limitless potential. You create scenarios to move through, landscapes to move through, worlds to examine, and as a result of that examination of those landscapes and worlds, you then are capable of further potential. So potential is creating potential all the while. Your experiences are limitless, your joy is limitless. The connection to your fellow beings, your fellow angelic beings, is blissful, is rewarding, is non-violent, is harmonious, and you are aware consciously of being part of God, of transmitting your experience to God and sharing that experience with all the other beings, angelic beings around you, which to me sounds absolutely wonderful. And when compared to our existence here, is light years away from how we perceive our physical lives here. But we can also create a measure of that existence here now by transmitting the light, by meditating, and by changing the landscape of this world through our meditations and connections with the divine and bringing through divine power to change things.
Yes, because when you speak of such things as you have there and describe them with just the human words that we have, it just sounds so amazing. But that's not to say to anyone that we need to be running away and wanting to pass on. That's that. It's let's just get back to it as well, like I do in some of these interviews. That it is important. The process of being here is just as important right now as considering what could be over there.
Absolutely. We've set into motion, each of us, a series of events. We're on an arc of existence that we've decided to travel. And I would never advise that anyone terminates this existence. That is not the right thing to do. And that's not what I'm saying. What we're saying and what Joseph is saying is that we are potentially, we are angelic beings, and the potential that we have in infinity, we also have here. And we can create that bliss and that joy for ourselves and for others by connecting to the God within on a daily basis and visualizing and putting power, energy, light into that world that we want to see. And yes, it's tough down here, but as you say, we're supposed to live this life from birth to physical death. And it's important that we put into this life each day all the joy that we can and all the light that we can to change life for ourselves and to care enough for others to change life for them too, for the better. Not changing them by coercing them, not changing them by saying you must believe this, you must act in this way, but bringing enough light into the world that they are like seedlings responding to the light as plants respond to the light. We create an atmosphere within which they can examine their lives quite literally in a new light and begin their spiritual journey.
So beautifully said. It really is. Thank you for sharing that. It's very, yeah. I mean, and the way Joseph puts it across to you as well. It's said in a way that seems complicated, but it's so simple in one sense, isn't it? But but we tend to make it complicated, don't we? Obviously, we're getting to the end of this interview right now, and I know we've barely scratched on a lot of the information that's in the book. But as I always do in these interviews, what would you say in this book as well is one of Jove's most important messages?
The most important message is that not only can you transmit light, but you can transmit it more effectively by practicing the methods that are outlined in the book. He is reinforcing our belief in an ability to transmit light to make things better for everyone. And that's what the book is about. And as he often says, one person transmitting light into the darkness is more powerful than 1,000 souls transmitting darkness into the darkness, because that light comes from the divine within and is the ultimate power, is ultimately the only power, is the creative power, is what we really are. And the book is a reinforcement of the ideas that have been put forward so far for changing the world through light. And it is an examination of advanced light-giving methods to make those who want to dedicate part of their days and nights to changing things here more effective in that vitally important spiritual work.
Well, you resonate love for mankind, you do, and I'm sure that's been a journey to get to that stage as well. But I mean, I suppose it's something you can't stop doing now, especially with the process that you've been through and the many books that you've written. So I just want to thank you on behalf of everyone for the work that you are doing and the work that you've done as well in bringing Joseph across.
Thank you, Kevin. That's very kind of you.
So, well, Michael, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward in the not too distant future as well to get you back on. So thank you so much.
Look forward to that, Kevin. Take care now.
Well, we've come to an end on today's show. Don't forget that you can watch and listen to all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests via the show on themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.